As your United States Senator, I will fight to end illegal immigration and soft on crime policies that release dangerous, undocumented criminals into sanctuary cities. Now, those alleged dangerous, undocumented criminals are people that he liked to hire and employ at a family business. And when he was caught doing so, he was slapped with a massive fine. So let's actually go to the next tweet. Dr. Oz just tweeted that he will fight to end illegal immigration. His family business was fined, I can't even believe this figure, $95 million by US Immigration and Customs Enforcement for illegally hiring thousands of immigrants using fake names. It's the largest fine in ICE history. And I'll give you the details on what the family business was and how he got caught in just a moment. But Cenk, Dr. Oz, little mini Trump.
Yeah.
What do you and the rest of the Turkish community have to say about this?
Okay, Shada. So first of all, Dr. Oz, sellout. So he's an immigrant. Now he's throwing other immigrants under the bus. He says, no, it's different because they're undocumented. That makes them illegal immigrants. Well, that's interesting because your family just paid a $95 million fine because you did something illegal. So what happened to, I care so much about the law. $95 million. You ever understand the scale that must have been? So that's apparently one of the largest privately held companies in the country. I didn't know that, owned by I think his father-in-law. So there's no end to how much money Dr. Oz has.
It was started by his father-in-law.
Okay,
yeah.
And so he has shares, his wife has shares. They say, no, our whole family has shares. And that makes it better how? Right?
We all broke the law.
Yeah, so don't tell me about people breaking the law and don't tell me about immigrants and then put the two together, because you actually broke that law more specifically by hiring undocumented immigrants and had to pay a monster fine for it. Not himself personally, but that company did, and he's part owner of that company, and it's a family business. And so, but guys, back to the immigration point. So I'm a legal, documented immigrant to this country. Why? Because I got lucky. My uncle was here because he was a doctor, so the country took him in because they needed more doctors, and he was able to sponsor us and bring us in. The undocumented immigrants didn't get lucky. They didn't happen to already have a family member here. So now but it's the same motivation. It's the same drive to make your family better, to go to a place that you think is filled with hope and opportunity. But now Dr. Oz is gonna turn around as an immigrant himself and say, these people are bad and evil, etc. Nah, it's a terrible thing to do if you're an immigrant.
Well, something I also want to add to this conversation is the fact that one of the reasons why we never get immigration reform, comprehensive immigration reform from Congress, is because business interests in the United States love employing undocumented immigrants. They love that they have undocumented status so they can exploit them. They can pay them whatever they want. What are they gonna do? What recourse do they have? They're gonna go to the authorities and say, hey, my wages are being stolen or I'm being abused at work? No, it's a perfect scenario for some of these companies who want to have workers who have even less power than ordinary citizens who have citizenship in this country. Now, let's give you the details on this family business. It's a privately held business, and it's a tree pruning company with a very awkward name, Asplund Tree Experts Co., a business for which Oz is listed as a shareholder on regulatory documents, settled with US Immigration and Customs Enforcement in 2017 after a 6-year investigation and audit revealed a systemic effort to hire unauthorized workers. The ICE press release at the time said this: the Tree Experts Company, one of the largest privately held companies in the United States, pleaded guilty on September 28th, 2017 to unlawfully employing aliens in connection with a scheme in which the highest levels of Asplund management remained willfully blind, while lower level managers hired and rehired employees they knew to be ineligible to work in the United States. And by the way, the press release used the word aliens. Please don't clip that out of context and use it against me like 5 years from now, which someone will probably do anyway.
No question. So first, just double down on what Anna said. If you care about undocumented immigrants coming in, the core of the problem is the companies that are willing to hire them, to make money off of them. And by the way, to deny you higher paying jobs. And so Dr. Oz is the cancer in that scenario that he's pretending he cares about, and it's like, oh my God, I am so outraged. Did my family make so much money that we paid a $95 million fine and it didn't even bother us by using undocumented immigrants? Oh, but I will now be so against undocumented immigrants because I hear Republican voters are hateful, and I'm trying to be as hateful as possible.
After the massacre in Buffalo, New York, discussion of white replacement theory is front and center, and the question of how many voters in America actually believe that white people are being intentionally replaced by people of color. What percentage, how many of them actually believe this? Well, we have a new, pretty terrifying YouGov poll that shows that the majority of Republican voters do in fact think this is true. Respondents to the poll were asked, do you agree or disagree with the following? White people in this country are being replaced by non-white people. Among all respondents, a significant 39% either strongly or somewhat agreed, while a slim 41% plurality disagreed. The numbers are even worse when it comes to Republicans. So among Republicans, 58% agreed either strongly or somewhat that whites are being replaced, while 61% of Trump voters said the same. Now look, the YouGov poll is terrifying, but I do have one note of caution, right? Because for me, the real question is, do they believe that this is a conspiracy, like something's being intentionally done to make this happen? Or are they just looking at what's happening to demographics in the country and they're noticing that, yeah, the white population is getting smaller because there's interracial marriage, there are immigrants, of course. There's a difference between acknowledging demographic shifts versus thinking there's some crazy manipulated like strategy to replace white people, right? Because white replacement theory is that Jewish people are conspiring and like carrying out this strategy to replace white people, which is insane, obviously.
Okay, so previous polls had said something that was still very troubling, but a tiny bit more benign. It said native-born Americans, okay? This one actually says white people. Okay, white people are going to be replaced. Nonetheless, 58% of Republicans said, oh yeah, white people are going to be replaced. So now let's break down how over the top racist this is. And if the word racist offends you, well, the fact that you are racist offends us way more, okay? So we're even, and let's move on. And now I'll prove to you that anyone who answered yes to this is a definitive racist. White people are going to be replaced by who? Non-white people. Why is that a problem? Because you're a racist. No, but it's literal. Like, so if you told me, hey, you're going to be replaced. First, we'll get back to in a second, replaced for what? Where am I going, right? But if you told me you're going to be replaced, let's say that the next host here is going to be a Latino or someone black. Why would I care? Why is that a bad thing? Because they think white people should be in charge. And the idea of having white people replaced, they find to be abhorrent. Other blacks, Latinos, Asians, non-white people in charge, they find that idea disgusting. That's because they're overtly racist.
Okay, but do you get the point that I'm trying to make? Like, look, I remember doing a show for Fusion back in 2016 where we were specifically talking about how the demographic, and we were celebrating it. We didn't think it was a bad thing, obviously. That, the Trump support was like the last gasp of like white America, right?
Yeah.
I remember talking about that. So
That's
like,
right, yeah.
so like if we were to answer this poll the way that it's being phrased, right? Like it's demonstrably true, but it's not asking you if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Do you get what I'm saying?
No. White people are not being replaced. That is not true. That's not even close to true. Are demographics shifting? Yes. Why it's not true when you say replace and white people is the key part, okay?
Fair.
So replaced how? Like, are they forcing you to move to Guadalajara? Like, do you have to go to some other country? You're not being replaced at all. More people are coming in. Some of them, by the way, are white. like Ukrainians and other immigrants that are coming from all different parts of the world. And some people are Latino, some people are Asian, they're all different races. But if we're adding other races, how are we replacing you? No, you're just saying, I don't like the other races. I don't want them to come in addition to the people that are already here because they're not white. If they were white, that's totally fine because it says white people, right? There's no subtlety at all in this, okay? So what do they mean by replace? What they mean is replace our power. They don't mean replace us physically. Nobody's going to a different country. And the idea that white people wouldn't be in charge in a country that they view to be like, they view to be racist. Like they think that's great that we're racist. We white people should never be replaced in power by black people or Latinos. So they're just literally telling you, I don't want this to be a democracy. I don't want everybody to be equal. I don't want white people to ever lose power and be replaced in the power dynamic.
God, we're so doomed. Like I mean, every year this country gets significantly worse with extremists and racists, like having more and more extremist and racist thoughts that are being fueled also by the right-wing media ecosystem that honestly, what do we have on the left, right? We have some independent media, sure. But can it really compete with corporate media and right-wing media at this point? I mean, the most watched cable news network is Fox News, with Tucker Carlson being the most watched host on that platform. And to your point, Cenk, yes, I mean, I'm not trying to erase the racist component here, right? I'm just talking about the methodology here and the way that they're phrasing the question. But to buttress your point, because you are right, if you take a look at other questions in this very poll, it's just demonstrably true that there's racism at the front and center. So the poll also asked, according to the US Census Bureau, more people of different races are marrying each other these days than in the past. In terms of its impact on the country, do you think this is a very good thing, a somewhat good thing, neither a good or bad thing, nor bad thing, a somewhat bad thing, a very bad thing, or not sure? Now, among Republicans, the split was even at 24% good thing to 23% bad thing. So 23% of Republicans think interracial marriage is a bad thing. Like they're comfortable enough to say that.
To a pollster.
To a pollster, yeah.
Someone on the telephone or whatever, and they say, oh yeah, white people and black people getting married. Ooh, that's terrible, that's a bad thing. I mean, I can understand saying neutral. I don't care if they marry a white person or a black person, I don't care, right? That's totally fine. Saying no, two different races marrying, bad thing. You just said you're racist. There's no subtlety at all.